Chu Vue's life from here on out. Here's a guy in prison who is going to be not liked by prisoners because he's a cop, and from the peace officer's perspective, he's a cop killer.
Right. Well, at this point, perspective has to be given. He hasn't been...
Sure.
Right. Nothing's been proven against him.
Everything's alleged, absolutely.
If he is convicted, if this is proven, he's going to have a miserable existence.
Sure,
because his life in prison will be horrible for himself. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying that as a former police officer, going into prison is never easy.
You bet.
It happens a lot, but it's never easy.
Well, let's talk about the trial here and the fact that right now we're looking at 4 defendants. That's unusual, and it's not going to stay that way, right?
No, it won't stay that way. It's extremely unusual. My opinion is that probably the friend who's involved has already talked to law enforcement and has been willing to cooperate with law enforcement. It's very rare that murder trials go to trial with 4 defendants.
And they get somebody to roll and be their witness. What's happened since this murder trial? I mean, it's been 6 months since the murder. What's been going on? Why's it taken so long, and what's happened in the intervening period?
Well, from what I've been able to see, it's been extremely phenomenal police work. What's happened so far is they were able to trace cell phones. They were able to find out that Mr. Vue got cell phones in an anonymous name, had his brothers take the phones from Minneapolis. The phones were traced to Corning, where he had a house built. Then they were able to record the cell phone pinging off the towers from Corning during the day of the murder to where the murder happened, and then back to Minneapolis. It's phenomenal police work.
The evidence appears to be really damning, and again, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. If you're his attorney, and that's what you do, you're a defense attorney, how do you defend this guy?
I think at this point, because the evidence does seem overwhelming at this point, you have to go with the angle of jealousy, anger, the affair, that his mind was so unclear and so full of rage that he planned all of this and was obsessed with this. I'm not necessarily saying insanity, because clearly he plotted, without question, according to the evidence. But that would have to be the defense, is that he was so unclear in his mind because he was so enraged with jealousy, he wasn't thinking clearly.
What does the charge become? I mean, it's a crime of passion then, but clearly premeditated, and so it's still murder 1, right?
No, it would become murder 2, or possibly voluntary manslaughter, if you're able to show a heat of passion so great that his mind was so overwhelmed with nothing but the thought of this that he just didn't focus on anything else and just was not clear or rational. It could be murder 2, which could save him from the death penalty.
Let's touch on that as we conclude then. We've got certainly 3 defendants, assuming this 4th person is rolled. We've got the 2 brothers who we are speculating were shooter. One of them was the shooter. And Chu Vue plotting, again, allegedly. Who faces the death penalty here?
Well, that's up to the DA. Maybe nobody. It's very unusual for anybody except the person who actually pulled the trigger to get the death penalty. Very unusual. I think in a case like this, and it's also very hard with the death penalty because it's a whole different trial. You have to have then a penalty phase. It's not that it's not done, it's done, but it's not something that's routinely done. I think this is a much easier case for the DA to charge as a first-degree special circumstances with life without the possibility of parole. I think entering the death penalty into this matter convolutes the matter, and there still is an issue of she was having an affair, there is jealousy, it could be heat of passion. There is a lot of planning. This is going to be a tough decision for the DA. My opinion is they're not going to proceed with the death